Democrats are now in Detroit for 2 nights of long, crowded, and occasionally awkward debates. Pete Buttigieg, Elizabeth Warren, and Bernie Sanders will be the ones to watch tonight. But the real show is tomorrow. Joe Biden says he's ready to defend his record on civil rights and criminal justice, unlike last time.
Do you agree today that you were wrong to oppose busing in America? Then, no. Do you agree?
But this time, the attacks won't only be coming from Kamala Harris. Cory Booker will be coming for Biden too.
My ancestors are from a small island to the south of Italy called Africa.
You know what? I got some people from there.
You got some people there?
Yeah. Wow, we might be related. Yeah.
Cory Booker's in Michigan, doing what he's done for a lot of the campaign, talking directly to his party's most reliable voting bloc.
Hi, how are you?
A lot of candidates are talking frankly about the issues facing Black and brown people in America. But perhaps no one does this more than Booker.
When it comes to issues of systematic economic disempowerment, when it comes to issues of gun violence or attacks on public education, we must be ready to bring a fight not just to the election, but to actually getting transformative things done from Washington to our communities.
And he's got the policy proposals to back it up. His so-called baby bonds program is designed to shrink the racial wealth gap.
Tell me about baby bonds.
Baby bonds is actually an idea that, interestingly, has come from think tanks on both sides of the aisle. And that's the simple idea that is every American, as a birthright, gets $1,000 into an interest-bearing account. And depending on your family's income, every year going up to 18, you can have up to $2,000 placed in the account. So the lowest income Americans would get $2,000.
He's also sponsored a bill to study reparations.
We as a nation have not yet truly acknowledged and grappled with racism and white supremacy that has tainted this country's founding and continues to persist in those deep racial disparities and inequalities today.
You talked a lot about how important Black voters are in this election. Do you feel like that's more important to concentrate on than say, white voters?
What I'm saying is that all voters are what we have to focus on in the Democratic Party. And that means, yes, going after all demographics, but it's also understanding that we have to be able to energize and excite what has been one of the most important parts of the Democratic coalition in terms of populations that vote at high percentages for Democrats.
So you're talking about the Black vote?
We need to have a candidate that can authentically engage and excite and energize our full coalition.
Rock and roll, folks.
But Democrats are increasingly less shy about talking about racism, and Booker's starting to be overshadowed by other candidates. Right now, he's polling at about 2%.
It seems like in this, especially in the primary, that race is going to be a topic for the entire election. For a lot of candidates, they're kind of starting to position themselves not only against Trump, but against other candidates. For example, against Biden. You started to do this, Kamala Harris has started to do this. It's worked out very well for Kamala Harris. It hasn't, your numbers haven't been popping off like hers have.
You're looking at this through polling 200 days away from the Iowa primaries. I'm looking at this about what's important for the Democratic Party right now, no matter who is the nominee. And if you can't have a conversation with a race without insulting folks, or you can't even, it takes you years, decades to even say, hey, maybe I made a mistake on that 1994 crime bill, which put mass incarceration just on steroids. These are the kind of things that I find problematic, period.
Cory Booker also knows that talking about racism can be a tougher sell in places like Iowa. So his stump speech is broader here, with calls for unity and stories about kind-hearted white folks who are on the right side of history.
I am here because of us, because of ordinary Americans who in times of moral crisis did extraordinary things for the cause of our country. They didn't divide this nation. They didn't pit us against each other. This election is not a small election about one person in one office. It is a big election about the culture and the values and the principles of America.
I feel almost like there's a couple Cory Bookers here. There's the Cory Booker who has prided himself, and publicly so, right, on being able to be very bipartisan, right? There's also one who I think is very attractive within the Democratic primary, who's talking about things like social justice, who's talking about things like criminal justice reform, who's talking about reparations. Are we going to see the same Cory Booker in a general election?
First of all, I don't see two. I see that the same person. I am the same person, general elections, primary elections, and I had a tough primary in my Senate race. And the person people are seeing now is a person people are going to be seeing as the nominee for the Democratic Party to be the next president of the United States.
And that'll be Booker's challenge in tomorrow's debate and through the rest of the campaign.
How are you?
Stay on one message, even if it makes some people uncomfortable.
I will make the case that why are we in politics but to address injustices and advance opportunities. And my loyalty will always lie with the communities that have put me into politics.
In order to get there, you have to get past the politics of election time.
I don't want to ascend to the presidency and lose my soul on the way. This is an election where I'm telling people who I am, what my values are, which I think are American values, and what I intend to do as president of the United States. And if that doesn't satisfy voters, and then fine. But I'm going to run this my way, because the worst thing that can happen is me trying to contort myself to something I'm not and lose, and then sit around the whole time saying, well, you know, God, I took on the biggest challenge of my life and I didn't bring my authenticity.
Thank you, everybody.